Yeah, I'm Chris. Yeah, sorry, I can call you Paul all the time.
So it's not great for meetings.
Oh, no, it's cool. We've only got 2 of us anyway.
Oh, right.
Sorry. That'd be brilliant, yeah.
So we can stick that on the...
It won't necessarily be...
we can stick
I
that on
haven't looked at the...
Question is, what service do IT staff of you at BAM do?
Yeah, so for students, I put them in 3 groups, really. There's the direct services that students get for the bulk of the student body, so I put down email. Although the student email is outsourced, it's still got local components to that service. There's student clusters, print services, online storage like the P drive, wireless, and internet access.
Sure.
Then there's the software, mainly the provision on the computer clusters. That's a bit of a mix of some software like Office, which is everyone uses, and then there's some specialist software like maybe a statistical package or AutoCAD, which only specific groups of students use. And then there's a sort of supporting service, the service desk, so if people get problems that they can call the service desk.
That's like for maintenance and things like that, and if people have problems with them. Sure.
And then I got some examples of the indirect services, so really these are supporting those direct services. So there's the wired network and the network infrastructure, so that's behind the scenes, supporting most of those things. And the infrastructure and databases for systems such as campus solutions, so there'd be a team looking after the servers, and there'd be a team who could do maintenance on the database.
So that's 2 distinct teams for each service.
So they'd probably find that a lot of these services will have a web component as well. So
for the front end for the students.
And then there will be the people in the student services group who look more at what campus solutions did. So that they're not IT people. But behind the scenes, you've got the IT people supporting what it runs on.
So, would you say that the IT people, kind of, how to say, have a lot of input in all of the individual services then? So, do you know what I mean? They have a lot of input, a lot of any control.
Important component of a lot of services. For instance, campus solutions had a very big problem a couple of years ago with performance. And so there's a whole project put in place to improve that. One of the components was looking at the structure of the databases to see if they were most organised. So there's an IT element. But there's an element like the data quality. A lot are caused by data exception. So that was more on the student services side. So very often it's that collaboration that there's an IT element and.
I see. So would that when you say it's a big problem, it was a big problem obviously internally, but would that manifest as well for the student experience?
Well, it did. I mean, one of the things was in the summer, the students go through an exercise of selecting their modules for the following session, and they were getting a very bad response time. So when they tried to select their modules, it was a really painful experience. So, so it was, it was just a very bad service because of that.
So
there's think the work went on the best part of a year to get that sorted.
Yeah.
So by the next summer,
when it came
better.
to that time in the next academic. So would you say that it's a result of that collaboration between student services and the IT people?
That's to say, the final group I done was a sort of specialist or service which would only affect a few students doing a specific subject area. So, for instance, in this building there's a simultaneous translation lab where students can go into booths and practice translating as people speak. So that would affect just students in a particular module. They're those sort of specialist services as well.
Like, which sources do you have to collect opinions about the system, complaints or feedback?
The ones that I use are my role. I have to maintain the list of services that humanities provide, but then I need to go to schools and see if they're being delivered to sufficient quality. So that can involve students. So for instance, I'll go to a faculty, staff and student liaison group where there's myself for IT, and it'll be a library rep, and it'll be someone from estates for building problems, and the student reps will provide a whole raft of issues that they've encountered, and then will be action to go and
So that means IT department collaborate with like several other departments?
Issues may be specifically IT, but it's a way of bringing all those groups together. So the issues, the student reps are brought together once and they meet the library, the estates and the IT people at one go. Of course, problems may be the two. Very often the library issues may involve an IT component.
Right.
The other way I would get feedback is through the individual responses on the service desk queries. So there is an opportunity for people to provide a feedback there. Only a very small percentage do, but even so, it's a useful source.
Do you see some saturation in terms of what people's queries are? Are they always the same thing, or similar type of thing, or is it like, oh, what's this?
Well, I mean, there are some recurrent themes. So through the liaison committees, and also another source we had was in the National Student Survey. People can put down general text comments, so people went through those and picked out all the ones which had got an IT comment on IT in there, and one of the recurrent themes in there was relating to things like submission deadlines. When you got submission deadline coming up, could you get a PC? Could you get a PC to print from?
Sure.
So, for instance, that one of the things which was done to sort of address that was to say, well, a lot of students have got a laptop, a wireless enabled laptop, so let's let them connect to the university printers from their laptop, so they don't need to get on.
Sure, to bypass it completely.
So it is very important to pick up on issues.
And then of course you can, as you say, that's a technical example of when you've resolved it in accordance with